that you could speak to the president. Can you tell us, can you tell him that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election? Can you say that? Do you have the independence to say that? Do you have the gravitas, the stature, the intestinal fortitude to say, Donald Trump, you lost the 2020 election? Can you tell us that here today?
Senator, what I can tell you is I will never play politics. You're trying to engage me in a gotcha. I won't do it. I won't play politics with any ongoing investigation like you did leaking your colleague Devin Nunes's memo.
If you can't answer the question, let me ask you a different, what should be a simple truth, not a hard one. Was there massive fraud affecting the result of the 2020 election, yes or no?
Senator, I'm glad you asked that question. If you'll let me answer what I saw in Pennsylvania.
No, I asked a simple question about massive fraud.
I can only tell you what I saw in Pennsylvania.
I know you want to answer a different question, but my question is, can you tell us whether there was massive fraud affecting the results of the 2020 election, yes or no? Was there or was there not?
I can tell you what I saw when I went as an advocate to the campaign.
That's not my question. So you can't answer that question. You can't.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, as you know, the Supreme Court in Trump versus United States held the president has absolute immunity to commit crimes in certain core areas of the president's responsibility. One of those core areas is the Justice Department. So in a breathtakingly dangerous and irresponsible decision, Justice Roberts and the majority held the president could commit crimes using the Department of Justice and be immune from prosecution. Justice Sotomayor correctly said this new immunity lies about like a loaded weapon. So the fear and the concern we have is that the incoming president will use that loaded weapon, that immunity, to commit crimes through the Department of Justice. And for that reason, it is all the more important that we have an attorney general who has the independence, the strength, the intestinal fortitude to say no to the president when it is necessary. So my first set of questions has to do whether you have the independence to say no when you must say no. And you can say this is hypothetical, but it is not hypothetical. So let me start with one very specific non-hypothetical. The president has said Jack Smith should go to jail. Will you investigate Jack Smith?
Senator, I haven't seen the file. I haven't seen the investigation. I haven't looked at anything. It would be irresponsible of me to make a commitment regarding anything without, you're a long practicing attorney, without looking at a file.
So you would need a factual predicate to open an investigation of Jack Smith, is that right?
Not a summary by you sitting here. Yes, sir.
And not a summary by the president either, right?
Absolutely.
So a summary by the president or his desire to investigate Jack Smith would not be enough for you to open an investigation of Jack Smith, is that right?
I will look at the facts and evidence in any case.
And sitting here today,
Senator, 72% of Americans have lost faith in the Department of Justice.
Sitting here today, are you aware of any factual predicate to investigate Jack Smith? Sitting here today, yes or no?
Senator, I will look at the facts and the circumstances.
You can't answer that question? You're not a part of the department yet. There's no worry about divulging law enforcement sensitive information. So just tell us, are you aware of a factual predicate to investigate Jack Smith? Yes or no?
Senator, what I'm hearing on the news is horrible.
Do
I know if you committed a crime? I have not looked at it.
You seem reluctant to answer a simple question. Let me ask you a different simple question. The president also wants to jail Liz Cheney. Sitting here today, are you aware of any factual basis to investigate Liz Cheney? Yes or no?
Senator, that's a hypothetical, and I'm not going to answer that question.
No, it's not hypothetical. I'm asking you, sitting here today, whether you are aware of a factual predicate to investigate Liz Cheney.
Senator, no one has asked me to investigate Liz Cheney. That is a hypothetical.
The president has called for it publicly. You are aware of that, aren't you?
No one has asked me to investigate.
But the president has
We're also worried about Liz Cheney, Senator.
The president has called for this.
You know what we should be worried about?
Ms. Bondi, please answer my questions.
The crime rate in California right now is through the roof.
Ms. Bondi,
your robberies are 87% higher than the national average.
My question is this.
That's what I want to be focused on, Senator.
Do you have the power to say no to the president? And what you're suggesting today by your non-answer is you don't have the independence to say no to the president. So let me ask you a different question. It also requires you, if you're going to be a good attorney general, to be able to tell hard truths to the president. So my questions now are, can you tell hard truths to the president? So let me start with an easy truth that you could speak to the president. Can you tell us, can you tell him that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election? Can you say that? Do you have the independence to say that? Do you have the gravitas, the stature, the intestinal fortitude to say, Donald Trump, you lost the 2020 election? Can you tell us that here today?
Senator, what I can tell you is I will never play politics. You're trying to engage me in a gotcha. I won't do it. I won't play politics with any ongoing investigation like you did leaking your colleague Devin Nunes's memo.
If you can't answer the question, let me ask you a different, what should be a simple truth, not a hard one. Was there massive fraud affecting the result of the 2020 election? Yes or no?
Senator, I'm glad you asked that question. If you'll let me answer what I saw in Pennsylvania.
No, I asked a simple question about massive fraud.
I can only tell you what I saw in Pennsylvania.
I know you want to answer a different question, but my question is, can you tell us whether there was massive fraud affecting the results of the 2020 election? Yes or no? Was there
I
or
can
was there
tell
not?
you what I saw when I went
That's
as an
not my,
advocate
that's
to
not
the
my question.
campaign.
So you can't answer that question. You can't speak that even easy truth to us, let alone to the president. So let me ask you a different question. It will also be important that you give good advice to the president. Are you prepared to advise the president not to pardon people who beat police officers?
Senator, as I said, the pardons are at the direction of the president. We will look and we will advise. I will look at every case on a case.
so you're
Let me
looking-
finish on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, good.
And I abhor violence to police officers.
Follow up with that. So will it be your advice to the president, Mr. President? I know you said you want to issue hundreds of pardons on day one. Will it be your advice to the president? No, Mr. President, I need to go over them on a case-by-case basis. Do not issue blanket pardons. Will that be your advice to the president?
Senator, I have not looked at any of those files. If confirmed, I will look at the files
And
for
will
the
you be able to
pardons, as
do?
well
Will
as
you
the
be able to
ongoing
review
investigation.
hundreds of cases on day one?
I will look at every file I am
Of course
asked
you
to
won't.
look
So
at.
will you advise the president?
Can I
will
answer
you-
the question?
Well, my question
I would
is-
have plenty of staff. You said, of course you want.
You'll be able to review
I'm
hundreds
not
of
going to
cases on the first
mislead
day?
this body, nor you.
All right, let me ask another question. You don't want to answer that. Let me ask
You were
another question.
censured by
It will
Congress,
also-
Senator, for
it will
comments just
also-
like this that
it
are
will
so
also- It will also be important for you to be able to preserve the records, the evidence of the department. Are you ready to commit that none of the evidence in the January 6th investigation will be destroyed under your watch?
Senator, I will follow the law. I will consult with ethical officials in the
Do you
department.
see any ethical basis to destroy evidence in the January 6th investigation? Then why can't you answer the question? Why can't you say, I commit to this committee, we will never destroy the evidence in the January 6th investigation? Why can't you give this committee and the American people that assurance?
Are you frightened because evidence was destroyed against President Trump that was false? Is that why you're
Why do
frightened
you
now?
have
I can't
difficulty?
believe this is even,
Why do you have difficulty answering that question?
I can't believe
Why do
you're
you have
asking such a
difficulty?
question.
Why do you have difficulty promising to preserve evidence at the Department of Justice? Why is that a difficult question?
I will follow the law.
It shouldn't be a difficult question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, I know that you are pleased that we are moving to the end of round one, and we appreciate your being here.
It ends not with a gavel, but with disbelief hanging in the air. Adam Schiff leans forward, frustration sharpening every word as he presses one last, almost painfully simple question. Why do you have difficulty promising to preserve evidence at the Department of Justice? Why is that a difficult question? Pam Bondi, the nominee for the most powerful law enforcement position in the country, responds with the same phrase she has repeated again and again: I will follow the law. In a hearing built on hypotheticals that are no longer hypothetical, this final exchange is not about legal nuance. It is about trust. It is about whether the person who may soon lead the Department of Justice will commit to something as basic, as foundational, as preserving evidence in the January 6th investigation. This entire clash began with a warning. Schiff laid out the stakes bluntly. The Supreme Court in Trump v. United States has declared that presidents have absolute immunity for criminal acts in core areas of their official responsibilities. The Justice Department, the very institution this nominee seeks to lead, is one of those core areas. Justice Sotomayor called this new immunity a loaded weapon, and Schiff's fear is simple: that a future president will pick up that weapon and fire it, using the powers of justice to commit injustice. In that shadow, Schiff's questions are not abstract. They are a stress test. Will this nominee, Pam Bondi, have the independence to say no to a president who demands the prosecution of his enemies and the protection of his friends? Will she stand up when the pressure comes, not from the law, but from the Oval Office? He starts with Jack Smith, the special counsel. The president has publicly said Jack Smith should go to jail. Schiff asks Bondi, will you investigate Jack Smith? She refuses to give a straightforward answer. She says she hasn't seen the file. She'd need to see facts, evidence. She says it would be irresponsible to commit to anything without a file in front of her. Schiff tries to narrow it down. Sitting here today, are you aware of any factual predicate to investigate Jack Smith? Yes or no? Still, she will not answer. He moves to Liz Cheney, another target of the president's public threats. Are you aware of any factual basis to investigate Liz Cheney? Again, she refuses to say yes or no, calls it hypothetical, says no one has asked her to investigate Cheney. It's as if even acknowledging the lack of evidence is too politically dangerous. Each time, the pattern repeats. A simple question, a yes or no fork in the road. And Bondi chooses a third path: delay, deflect, reframe. She promises to look at the facts and evidence later. She promises to never play politics. But in that very refusal to answer the simplest version of the question, politics is exactly what fills the silence. Schiff then asks her to speak a basic truth. Can you tell the president that he lost the 2020 election? Not in private, not in some speculative future. Right here, under oath. She declines. She calls it a gotcha. She says she won't play politics. He asks an even simpler version. Was there massive fraud affecting the result of the 2020 election? Yes or no? She still won't answer. She insists on talking about what she personally saw in Pennsylvania, about anecdotes and impressions, not about the settled reality that dozens of courts, Republican officials, and Trump's own Justice Department have already established. If a nominee cannot bring herself to say, in 2025, that there was no massive fraud in the 2020 election, what does that say about her readiness to tell hard truths to a president who thrives on lies? Then comes the question of pardons. The president has talked about issuing hundreds of pardons, including to those who beat police officers on January 6th. Schiff asks if Bondi will advise against blanket pardons, if she will tell the president that each case must be evaluated individually, not swept into a mass absolution of political allies. She dodges again. She says she'll look at every file, that she'll have plenty of staff. But she will not commit to telling the president no, not even in principle, not even here, where the only thing at stake is public transparency. Finally, Schiff comes to the heart of it. The evidence itself, the records, the proof. He asks her to commit that no evidence in the January 6th investigation will be destroyed under her watch, that nothing will be quietly erased, conveniently misplaced, or lost in the fog of policy changes. And again, she retreats to the same refuge. I will follow the law. I will consult with ethical officials. He presses. Is there any ethical basis to destroy January 6th evidence? She will not say no. Can you give this committee and the American people your assurance that the evidence will never be destroyed? She will not say yes. And that is when the disbelief spills out. I can't believe you're having difficulty promising to preserve evidence at the Department of Justice. In that moment, the clash between Schiff and Bondi is no longer about partisanship. It is about the bare minimum we expect from the person entrusted with the machinery of federal justice. This is what the hearing reveals. Not just about Pam Bondi, not just about Adam Schiff, but about the American system at this moment in history. The Supreme Court has made the presidency more insulated from criminal accountability than at any time in modern memory. The president is openly demanding investigations of his perceived enemies and promising sweeping pardons for his allies. And the Senate is being asked to confirm an attorney general who refuses, under oath, to commit to the most basic guardrails, that facts, not presidential tweets, will decide who is investigated, that truth, not political convenience, will define elections, that evidence, not loyalty, will determine guilt. Government at its best is supposed to be a check on power, on impulse, on the temptation to use public office for private revenge. Justice at its best is supposed to be blind to status, party, and fear. But this hearing shows how fragile those ideals become when the people asked to defend them will not speak simple truths in public. The American system survives not just on laws, but on people willing to honor them when it's hard, on officials willing to look a president in the eye and say, "No, you cannot do that. You lost. You were wrong. The evidence stays." When those words become too dangerous to say out loud, democracy doesn't collapse in a single dramatic moment. It erodes quietly behind phrases like, "I will follow the law," while the law itself is bent to serve one man's will. That is why hearings like this matter. Not because every senator is noble, not because every nominee is corrupt, but because in these confrontations we see whether the last safeguards, truth, independence, integrity, are still standing or already being negotiated away. If you think this should all happen in the dark, with no cameras, no questions, no public record, then none of this matters. But if you believe that the American people have a right to see how their justice system is shaped, and who is shaping it, then this is where you need to be, watching, listening, remembering who answered and who didn't. If you want more than headlines and sound bites, if you want to see the stakes of democracy play out in real time, in real rooms, with real consequences, then stay with us. Subscribe to Congress Signal. Support our work to bring you inside these hearings, to follow every question, every dodge, every moment of courage, and every moment of cowardice, so that when history asks what happened to American justice, the record will be there, intact, for all to see.